Tzu Chi volunteers in Jordan have been busy bringing food to their aid recipients before Ramadan ends. We learn about Taiwan's troubled agricultural industry and policy, which are driving food prices higher. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Tzu. Thank you for joining us. As Muslims across the world observe the holy month of Ramadan, Tzu Chi volunteers in Jordan have been finding ways to help make fasting easier on their care recipients. Earlier this month, volunteers carried out their second round of distributions for Bedouin tribes in the capital of Amman, and also visited care recipients' families on a weekly basis, bringing them iftar meals so that they may observe this month of fasting with peace of mind.
يا نور الهلال أقبل تعال فالشوق طال والقلب سما.
As a gesture of respect while Muslims observe the holy month of Ramadan, Tzu Chi volunteers visit their care recipients in the evenings and join them for their fast-breaking meal, iftar. Volunteers prepare iftar meals on behalf of their care recipient families so that they may observe fasting during Ramadan with peace of mind. The temperature in the Jordanian capital of Amman is well above 30 degrees Celsius during the day, making fasting all that more difficult for many. Tzu Chi volunteers also traveled to Wadi Abdun and Al Khawazmeh, where they carried out distributions on behalf of the Bedouins living there.
What we do here is to make your life better, and also we want to improve our relations with Jordan and also bring peace in this area.
Volunteers helping out at the distribution include students and teachers of Tzu Chi volunteer Chen Jihui's Taekwondo class. Meanwhile, a 70-year-old volunteer said, the more she does, the happier she feels.
I don't feel I'm 70 really, because I'm old in age but young in heart.
These are clothes donated by Taiwanese entrepreneurs. Today we distributed dates, tea, oil, sugar, and beans.
Tzu Chi volunteers' respect and regard for Muslims during Ramadan has made this month extra meaningful.
Tzu Chi International Medical Association is dedicated to delivering medical services to remote areas and to needy people around the world. Recently, a free clinic was held at a high school in Hai Duan, Vietnam, where many locals seized the occasion to seek the medical attention they desperately need.
In spite of the heavy rain, Tzu Chi volunteers reached their destination. Driving past the buildings and fields, the volunteers finally come to Quang Tam High School. Tzu Chi volunteers from Hai Duan and Ho Chi Minh City then roll up their sleeves to clean up. They were in fact preparing the venue for a free clinic that was to be held the next day.
The doctors are attentive and the volunteers are thoughtful. They brought us here and sent us off. This is the first time I've seen such thoughtful service.
The doctor gave us a thorough checkup. I hope Tzu Chi will hold free clinics here more often.
Tzu Chi volunteers' love for their patients is what drew Dr. Guyen Wu Mingying, who serves at Vienna Medical University's hospital, to join. He has been taking part in Tzu Chi's free clinics for 8 years now and plans to study in Taiwan this year.
I chose to get my doctoral degree at Tzu Chi University because I think I can grow there and finish what I have not been able to do yet. After participating in the free clinic, I realized Tzu Chi volunteers apply Buddhist teachings to their everyday actions.
Whether it is theory, medicine, or religion, many have found what they were looking for at the free clinic. The occasion also nurtured the volunteers' wisdom as well as compassion for the needy.
Returning to Taiwan for those injured in the Bali water park explosion, they will begin to undergo debridement surgery and skin grafting. However, as both operations typically require general anesthesia, the patients will have to deal with quite a few complications due to their injuries. We find out what they are from an anesthesiologist at the Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital.
For burn victims who suffered extensive burns to their body or smoke inhalation, they are susceptible to complications caused by intubation, hypoxemia, circulatory shock, dehydration, undernourishment, and hypothermia.
最大的困难应该是缺氧。
The biggest challenge is caused by hypoxemia, because burn patients most likely have sustained injuries to their lungs already, and when sedated, their lung function will be further reduced. Plus, they might have an infection of some sort, so we must make sure their blood oxygen content is at a good level.
Severe burns to the upper torso and respiratory system can make intubation and inserting a nasojejunal feeding tube to provide the patient with oxygen and nutrition during the long skin grafting and debridement surgery difficult, while extensive blood loss may lead to circulatory shock. Extensive loss of skin will cause dehydration and hypothermia, as the patient's body can no longer retain fluids and regulate body temperature properly.
We must keep the operation table warm by using heat lamps, heaters, or electric blankets. The temperature of the operation room will be raised as a whole, but despite our efforts, typically, a patient's temperature will still drop by 1 to 2 degrees.
Treating a burn patient is not easy due to all the possible complications involved. However, all the medical staff serving on the front line to save the lives of those injured in the Bali water park explosion remain dedicated to their post and are doing everything they can to help make sure their patients get better.
As parents of the victims of the Bali water park explosion worry over the suffering their children are enduring to treat their burn injuries, a former victim of burn injuries and his mother have some words of encouragement they want to share with these families. Guo Ziwei was among the injured at the Kaohsiung gas blast last year. He has successfully recovered thanks to his own positivity and the loving support of his mother. Here's what the mother and son pair has to say.
His whole back had caught on fire, so his injury extended all the way here. It was because of the shirt he wore, so the burn covered his whole back.
When I saw how badly burned my left arm was, I had difficulty accepting the fact at first. But then I thought others' opinions don't matter to me. It's what I think that matters. At first, I had trouble rotating my injured arm, so I had to undergo physical rehabilitation for about 1 to 2 months, which really worked. The therapist will push you beyond your limits. I had to work till I could rotate my arm freely, which took time. The pain from the injury was something that I had to deal with alone, as no one else can share the pain. Even when the nurse was gentle when dressing the wounds, it was painful. When she was being rough, it hurt the same. The pain is something that you must learn to cope with. For me, I cried till all my strength was spent. I would lay there for an hour after the nurse dressed my wounds, just sort of dazed and exhausted. When I came to, I would start eating.
Initially, it was the pain from all the debridement surgeries, and then it was the pain from undergoing rehabilitation. There was really nothing that we could do for him. We were also worried about how others would look at him. Will he be accepted by society, etc.? As parents, you ache to see your children suffer, but you must control yourself. You must do your best to conserve your strength and energy so you may better care for your children. You need to be encouraging and supporting. This is way better than lamenting. You need to let them know that you will always be there for them. and that they can always turn to you for support.
As dining habits of Taiwanese change and people eat less rice and more meat, dairy, and wheat-based products, Taiwan's agricultural sector has begun to reflect these changes, with rice fields slowly being abandoned or transformed into cornfields. However, as Taiwan is still nowhere near to being able to grow enough grain or animal feed to meet domestic demand, it has come to rely heavily on imports, which have seen a dramatic rise in prices, hitting the average Taiwanese where it hurts the most, the pocketbook.
As far as the eye can see are fields of green, open rice paddies. These fields are now growing corn for livestock feed.
In the contract-designated areas, we don't grow rice but field corn, which is not for humans but used to feed livestock. Profit equals price times yield. Along those same lines, if profit does not increase, farmers will decide to keep their fields fallow in order to be eligible for government subsidies.
From 1980 to 1990, corn cultivation in Taiwan reached 80,000 hectares. Today, that number stands at 18,000 hectares, with 1/3 of that being field corn. However, as the taste for flour-based foodstuffs increase and fewer people are eating rice, the government has been encouraging farmers to plant less rice and more corn or other grains.
Island-wide, we have about 5 million pigs, which is actually not enough. We need around 6 million, so we import the rest.
Feeding so many pigs require huge amounts of feed. Currently, Taiwan only produces about 35,000 tons of field corn for livestock feed, which addresses only 1% of the country's total needs, the rest being imported. Relying on imports, however, carries its own risks.
We need to find ways to use and consume what we grow domestically. The problem now is what we eat is all imported from all over the world. So from initial production to the end consumer, to the overall change in tastes, all of it has become extremely mixed up.
Rice cultivation in Taiwan stands around 230 to 260,000 hectares. However, 220,000 hectares remain fallow, with 80,000 hectares not being used in either the first or second planting and thus listed as abandoned. Over the past 10 years, farms totaling the size of 1,770 DaAi forest parks have disappeared in Taiwan. Perhaps the solution is to eat more rice.
When you eat rice or products made from rice, you show concern for the overall agricultural environment here in Taiwan, as well as the welfare of our farmers. You're also helping with food safety at some level as well. These connections are all important.
Taiwan's grain self-sufficiency rate has fallen from 30% 10 years ago to 24% today. However, domestic wheat and corn production only meets 2% of total needs. Thus, except for rice, Taiwan relies heavily on imports for grains and is thus at the mercy of fluctuating oil prices and international commodity markets. Something to consider the next time you skip a bowl of rice for a sandwich.
In Taiwan, traditional funeral services are costly and not very environmentally friendly. Next, we introduce a new and improved funeral service that is on the rise in the country: burial at sea. In New Taipei City, Bali District held a second burial at sea ceremony recently to send off 16 deceased. We now find out more on how selecting the sea as your final resting place may be a good option for those who live a green life.
In Taiwan, more and more people are choosing the ocean as their final resting place. Family members of the 16 deceased first held a simple joint memorial service at the New Taipei City mortuary, then headed towards Bali Harbor to drop the ashes into the ocean.
My father said he wanted to fight the communists and go back to China. However, he never had the opportunity to realize his wish.
Fulfilling his father's last wish, Mr. Chen says his goodbyes. Each family member here has a different reason in choosing this method of burial.
My wife loved the ocean.
Even the boat captain who has long provided this service is moved by these moments.
Our line of work is this. If someone wants this, we provide the service. It's become quite normal.
This 91-year-old was determined to get on the boat to send her younger brother a final farewell.
Natural is the way to go. We didn't do anything special for him.
Choosing burial at sea lets the deceased return to nature and become one with Mother Earth. Sea burials have been on the rise lately in Taiwan. Each city and county has the means to make arrangements for such funeral services, and it seems to be a trend in Taiwan's funeral service industry as of late.
Each county will hold a memorial service. Afterwards, they head to a harbor and scatter the ashes.
After placing the ashes in a biodegradable bag, family members can then toss the ashes into the ocean 6 kilometers away from the shore. Burial at sea is not only environmentally friendly, but also economically sound as well. Currently in Taiwan, there is no payment required to participate in a joint sea burial.
A basic burial in Taipei City costs about 200,000 to 300,000 NT. A place in a public columbarium can cost anywhere from 10,000 NT up to 120,000 NT.
In Taiwan, there are close to 12,000 people who have chosen to return to nature after their death by having their ashes buried amongst trees and flowers. Choosing different ways to handle the funeral service of one's loved ones not only raises environmental awareness, but also memorializes them in a different way.
The massive earthquake that struck Nepal in April left many school buildings damaged, among them MS Bikas Elementary School, which is located in Buddha Nilkantha, Kathmandu. After a thorough damage assessment, the Tzu Chi Foundation is providing 4 prefab classrooms for the school.
After the earthquake in April, Atmas Bikas Elementary School in Buddha Nilkantha, Kathmandu, became unsuitable to continue class in. After an evaluation, the Tzu Chi Foundation decided to help the school and build 4 prefab classrooms. The day construction was to begin, 17 volunteers hiked nearly an hour to reach the school. However, materials for the classroom had not yet arrived.
The building materials have yet to arrive, so since we're already here, we thought as the foundation for 2 of the classrooms has not been started, we should get started on the foundation.
Not wasting any time, volunteers got to work setting the foundation. Among those helping to build the foundation for the prefab classrooms were 4 volunteers from the United States.
So far, I've been here with Tzu Chi for 2 days, and I'm going to be here for another 2 more days helping out with Tzu Chi in Nepal.
I really enjoy working with my hands and getting work done and helping other people and building homes for the people that lost their homes and or schools. And yeah, I think it's been a great experience.
The Tzu Chi Foundation's relief work for Nepal has entered its mid to long-term planning stage, but the love and care for the residents living in tent communities continues as before. At the Chuche Pati tent community, Tzu Chi and other international NGOs are working together to provide a more sanitary environment for the residents.
We'll be working about hygiene, water and sanitation wherever Tzu Chi is doing work on education. We hope to achieve a very nice hygiene standard for the people.
There are 4 different organizations from different backgrounds and different countries here, using their expertise to help the tent communities.
Meanwhile, the prefab homes for the nuns at the Bhikkhu Gumpa Monastery are nearing completion. Volunteers are waiting for the arrival of Tzu Chi's folding beds and wardrobes before handing over the keys to what will be a very comfortable living environment.
After the musical adaptation of the Water Repentance Sutra in Malaysia successfully concluded, volunteers there have disassembled the practice stage in Kuala Lumpur's Jinsi Hall. Having practiced hard on the stage, the on-stage volunteers will now apply the Dharma teachings to their life off-stage. and even guide others onto the correct path.
On-stage volunteers in Malaysia have been using this stage since shortly after Chinese New Year. Before the performance, they seized every opportunity to practice on this stage. Now that the performance is over, the practice stage has become their common memory.
Now that the Tzu Chi adaptation is over, we need to disassemble the practice stage, but I'm a bit reluctant to do so. However, since the master has taught us to let go of the past, we need to move on. Although the performance is over and the stage taken down, the important thing is for the Dharma teachings to remain in our hearts.
The volunteers work as a team in building the practice stage as well as in disassembling it.
First, we'll tear off the carpet, then we take down the plywood before disassembling the iron scaffolding.
The volunteers disassembled all parts carefully, as some of the components can be reused in the future.
Taking out and collecting the staples in a bucket, we won't get poked by them. If we left them out on the floor, we could step on them.
Although the practice stage has been taken down, it does not mean everything has ended.
Now that the Tzu Chi adaptation performance is over, we have to take the Dharma teachings to heart and work to recruit more people to walk the Bodhisattva path.
Having taken the Sutra teachings to heart, the volunteers will continue to practice what they've learned in their daily life while trying to make a difference in other people's lives.
As Taiwan enters typhoon season, the Tzu Chi Foundation donated 800 multi-purpose folding beds to the Pingtung County government so that they can be distributed to 14 townships in the county to be used in times of emergency.
The Tzu Chi Foundation donated 800 folding beds to the Pingtung County government, and volunteers demonstrated how one can sit and sleep on the beds.
In times of disasters, the affected residents can use the folding beds and stay at shelters with dignity.
In fact, we can use the folding beds in daycare centers for seniors. When they need to take a rest, they can use the beds.
The folding beds are being loaded onto the truck to be transported to 14 townships in Pingtung County. After a bumpy ride, the beds were brought to Sandiman Township.
The beds can be folded when not in use, so they do not take up space and are convenient to use.
In times of disasters, the folding beds will allow affected residents to rest well. At senior centers, elderly people can take naps on these beds. With the donation, more people in Pingtung's remote areas will be able to enjoy the comfort provided by this practical gift.
Students of the Lord Tzu Chi Middle School in Sichuan, China have been making the best use of their summer break by joining local Tzu Chi volunteers in making home visitations. As they witness the plight and suffering of those in need, they came to understand how blessed they are. We leave you with these images at the end of today's program. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.